Las Vegas historical moments, 1910s. In 1910, there were 10 miles of graded and curbed streets in Las Vegas, but there was no sewer system and no paved streets in town. Jack Johnson was the first African-American heavyweight champion. Undefeated Jim Jeffries came out of retirement wanting to defeat Johnson, and he was called the Great White Hope. The fight was banned in California, so Las Vegas wanted the boxing match, but on July 4, 1910, Reno hosted the heavyweight championship. In Las Vegas, the bar at the Overland Hotel connected a telegraph wire from the railroad depot to the bar, and this could be considered the first sports bar in town. The match was called the Fight of the Century, and after Jack Johnson won in a knockout, about 20 people died in race riots around the country. Las Vegas was known as the Mississippi of the West, but not yet, because there were so few African Americans in 1910. The town had about 800 people, and there were about 55 Hispanics, 21 Asians, and 16 African Americans.
People are traveling here from all over the country, bringing their ideas and their beliefs with them. So those negative attitudes traveled to the new town right along with all other attitudes. Any place in the country, you would have seen segregated communities. But in the beginning, we didn't see it as vividly as we began to see it later on, because everyone worked on the railroad.
But in 1911, Walter Bracken, who managed the Las Vegas Land and Water Company, said, "Our colored population, Mexicans, etc., is growing very rapidly, and unless we have some place for this class of people, they will be scattered all through town." The Mesquite Club, which is a women's civic club, was established in 1911. Helen Stewart and Delphine Squires were two of the founding members, and it is still active today. In naming the club, Helen said, "If the club could ever mean as much to the women of this community as the mesquite tree had to the Indian women here on the desert, we could not ask for more." The Mesquite Club's first campaign was in 1912, where they raised enough money to plant 2,000 trees around Las Vegas. The club also helped pay for the first public library. The Majestic Theater opened in 1911, and the Las Vegas Age reported that it is the intention of the management to make the Majestic Theater second to none in the state. The opening will occur on February 8th, when a most interesting program will be shown. The theater showed silent films and newsreels, while talkies were widely available in the 1920s. Movies could also be seen at the Air Dome, which was a projector outdoors with chairs. The Overland Hotel also had a theater in 1911. On March 16, 1911, the Nevada governor signed a bill giving approval to Las Vegas to have an election about incorporating the town, and Charles Squires gave the pen used by the governor to Helen Stewart. The local election to vote on incorporating the town took place in June. On May 23rd, the Overland Hotel burned down, killing one and causing $25,000 in damages. The volunteer firefighters had 2 hose carts and no water pressure. In a direct way, this fire marked the start of a modern-day Las Vegas city government. On June 1st, 1911, the town voted 168 to 57 to create the city of Las Vegas, and Peter Buell was elected mayor. Helen Stewart's son, William Stewart, was one of the 4 city commissioners. The new city was then able to raise funds through a sewer bond in order to build the first sewer system that was completed in 1913, which is partly why the town was incorporated. In 1991, Jan Leverty Jones became the first female mayor of Las Vegas. On July 5, 1911, the newly incorporated city hired a fire chief and 18 firefighters, establishing the first paid volunteer fire department. They were paid $1 per month for practice drills and $2 for each fire. Within a year, all 19 quit because of little pay, and casual bystanders had to fight fires for the next 2 years until the city organized a volunteer fire department. In 1942, Las Vegas would establish the first full-time professional fire department. On December 30th, 1911, Helen Stewart deeded 10 acres of land to the Paiute tribe, creating the Las Vegas Indian Colony. These 10 acres is where the Las Vegas Paiute Tribal Smoke Shop is located today on North Main Street, about 1 mile north of Fremont Street. In 1983, the federal government gave back 4,000 acres of land to the Paiute tribe in the Northwest, which is now called the Snow Mountain Reservation. In 1907, residents were asking about the possibility of having some streetlights installed, and they were installed on Fremont Street in 1913. The Pioneer Saloon opened in 1913, and it is still open today as the oldest bar in southern Nevada and the oldest small business in Clark County. The first high school students started in 1909, and they shared a building with the grammar school. The first commencement for Clark County High School was in the auditorium on May 30th, 1913, with 4 students. The first movie to be filmed in Las Vegas was The Hazards of Helen. Helen Holmes starred in the Calum Company film serial that had 119 episodes at 12 minutes each, filmed in different states from 1914 to 1917.
They shot 4 episodes in Las Vegas, including one on Fremont Street, where her telegrapher office is right in the middle of the street. They came back again in 1916 and did The Girl in the Game, another series of episodic stories.
The first Las Vegas Marshals began working in 1914 as special patrolmen, given authority to impound stray dogs in the city. Today, the city marshals patrol city property like buildings and parks. The first permanent Clark County courthouse was completed on October 10, 1914, at a cost of $50,000, and it was surrounded by a park, but it was demolished in the 1950s. On November 3, 1914, women were given the right to vote in Nevada, 6 years before the 19th Amendment was ratified in the U.S. Constitution. Las Vegas Age publisher Delphine Squires coordinated suffrage efforts in Las Vegas. Ann Martin was a statewide leader driving all over Nevada campaigning, but she never visited Las Vegas. Martin did write one letter to the Mesquite Club in support of women's suffrage. The statewide vote was the largest proportionate vote for women's suffrage at the time, and Clark County had the second highest percentage in the state. In 1915, Las Vegas residents had access to electrical power 24 hours a day. Since 1913, people were wanting a road to Los Angeles and Salt Lake City, and the Southern Nevada Automobile Club was established in 1914. The Arrowhead Trail or Arrowhead Highway was completed in 1915, and it was the first all-weather road that connected Los Angeles and Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. The highway was a grassroots effort with local citizens helping with road construction. In 1915 and 1916, Charles Bigelow drove the entire length of the Arrowhead Highway in his twin six Packard, trying to promote the road. The road was replaced by Highway 91 in 1926, and it eventually became Interstate 15. In 1915, Helen Stewart became the first woman elected to public office in Clark County as a school board trustee. She was a teacher and a big supporter of education. Also in 1915, Sheriff Sam Gay was arrested because he got drunk and shot out some lights on Fremont Street. Sam would never drink in public again, and he remained sheriff until 1931. Jelly Roll Morton was the first big entertainer to perform in Las Vegas when he arrived in 1917. Jelly Roll was one of the biggest ragtime piano players in the country, and he played at the Gem Saloon on Block 16 because his longtime girlfriend, Anita Gonzalez, was running a brothel in town. Morton left Las Vegas because he didn't like the heat of the summer, the cold in the winter, but also because a Clark County grand jury determined that there was too much piano playing in Block 16. The grand jury also didn't like that some black men were getting too close to white women. The first black church was the Zion Mission Church, which began on January 2, 1917, with 14 members. Las Vegas then had fewer than 50 black residents. Initially, the Zion Mission Church shared a building with the First Methodist Church until Mary Needles and A.B. Pop Mitchell successfully petitioned the Union Pacific Railroad to donate land to build their own church that was 25 feet by 12 feet at the northeast corner of 2nd and Ogden Streets, which today is Casino Center in Ogden. The church was at this location until 1945, and it was on Block 17, one of 2 blocks in the red light district where alcohol and prostitution was legal. The Zion Methodist Church is the oldest continuous black congregation in Las Vegas, and this is the current location in the west side on Revere Street. Up until 1917, Clark County High School shared their building with the grammar school. Helen Stewart was invited to speak and preside over the laying of the cornerstone in October 1917 for the $42,000 Clark County High School building on 4th and Clark Avenue. Students moved in on December 17th. The first death in Clark County from the flu pandemic happened on October 7, 1918. On the morning of November 4th, the Las Vegas City Commission met in an emergency session and passed Ordinance 73. It stated that within the city limits, everyone shall at all times and all places wear upon the face a mask. The city called on every police officer to enforce the ordinance, which carried a fine from $5 to $100. On Friday, November 8th, 4 men were taken into the courtroom of Judge Breeze for failure to wear a mask. Following a stern admonishment, the judge let them off without a fine. The 1918 flu killed 40 of Las Vegas's 2,000 residents, but those numbers are believed to be low because many who died with pneumonia during that time were not included in the total count. World War I was the first time that people in Las Vegas felt like they were part of the country as an individual city because they had to send men to fight in the war. 9 men from Clark County never returned. On Election Day in November 1918, Nevada voters considered a ballot measure known as the wet and dry question, asking whether to prohibit alcohol in the state. Dry won by almost 60%, and the state officially went dry at midnight on December 17, 1918, while the country would go dry 13 months later. This was a legal prescription for whiskey. In February 1919, A.P. Chamberlain was the first convicted in town for having several bottles of liquor in his hotel room on Fremont Street. A local judge fined him $125, gave him a suspended sentence, and ordered him to leave town and not return. Federal law enforcement, who were based in Los Angeles, did make raids in Las Vegas over the years, and the bars accepted the fines as the cost of doing business. Local law enforcement really did not enforce prohibition. In 1978, former police chief Spud Lake said that the bootleggers would come in, pay their fine, and go about their business. None of the money went to the police officers. It all went to the city, which tolerated a business profitable to the city coffers.
Las Vegas never did really like the idea of social engineering by law. We weren't real good with that. And so when the state went dry, we didn't pay much attention to that.